Good, good. I'm fantastic. So let's get right into it. You've been at Hulu for a little over a year now, and goodness, what a year it's been. And before that, like John mentioned, you were at Lyft and CAA. Can you start off by giving everyone more of a background about, your career as a brand marketer and how storytelling has played a role in it?
Absolutely, happy to do so. Yeah, as you mentioned, to date the majority of my career was at CAA and CAA marketing. Those unfamiliar with CAA, Creative Artists Agency, is one of the, if not the largest, entertainment agency in the world. Primarily founded in talent representation, representing actors, writers, athletes, musicians. And the group that I was in, CAA marketing, was a group of marketers that work directly with brands, in some cases Fortune 500, Fortune 50, or even startups, to help leverage the connectivity, the insights, the expertise that we had to build strategic campaigns, partnerships, content creation. And we did that on behalf of incredible brands like General Motors, which is Cadillac, GMC, Chevy, and Buick, Chipotle, Mattel, Diageo, and many others. And the foundation of that was really, as you mentioned, storytelling. And when I joined that group back in 2009, it was also at a time of a lot of change change of consumer behavior and consumption. And although we like to pretend that we could predict the future, of course we could not. But the one constant, while we knew things were changing in terms of how and where people were going to consume content or consume storytelling, the one thing that we knew was going to remain the same was the power of story and the power of talent, and knowing that wherever incredible talent goes, again, be it an actor, a writer, a director, a musician, eyeballs and fans will follow. And if we could stay on the forefront of that and the forefront of the trends, then we could do an incredible job working with our brand clients in finding ways to market, to communicate, to tell stories. So was at CAA for many years, then went to Lyft in 2017, and spent a lot of time. The majority of our marketing, or our brand marketing efforts at Lyft, was all around entertainment and storytelling and becoming a fabric of popular culture. And was there for about a little over 2 years, leading in through the IPO, and then last summer decided to join Hulu and bring the background and the expertise that I had in marketing and entertainment and technology, and join and had worked with Hulu many times over in the past, and was a big believer in what that brand stood for, and the offering and the storytelling and the product, and joined Hulu, where I've been helping to lead the marketing around the originals for, as you said, just over a year now.
Fantastic. Well, they're lucky to have you. You mentioned pop culture, and on our prep call, you talked about being a student of culture. Can you elaborate a little bit for the folks tuning in about what that means to you? And also, is there anything that's happening right now that is catching your eye, and how is it influencing your marketing strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. Calling myself and reminding myself to always be a student of popular culture is an important part of the fabric of who I am, but also the people that I like to surround myself with. And what I mean by that is constantly staying curious and constantly staying in a state of learning and trying new things and meeting people with different backgrounds, and sharing stories and sharing experiences. It's the antithesis of comfort, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. It's something that I've tried to talk to and encourage my teams to do at all times, in taking meetings that might not seem to be directly relevant on the surface to what is in front of you at that moment, but you never know where that's going to take you. And I think a lot of that comes from the foundation around the importance of partnership, and knowing that we're not going to be able to do it alone. Our team, the team that I help lead, is not going to be able to do this alone. We're going to be reliant upon our partners, be it media partners, creative partners, and in order to really find and uncover those opportunities, you need to stay hungry and persistent in your pursuit of curiosity. And that's why that constant state of being a student is important. Not to mention, as we all know, the constant state of evolution that our world is in, and in the uncertainty of what the future brings. If you, in my opinion, if one takes themselves out of being a student, you're going to fall behind quickly. And I think that's an important part of marketing right now, whether you're doing brand marketing, content marketing, product marketing. Maintaining that level of curiosity and interest is important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I really agree with you that curiosity is the cornerstone of innovation. And speaking of innovation, we are in these really trying times where consumer behaviors and mindsets are shifting quicker than ever, right? We're having to respond with limited information, with an overabundance information, not knowing what information is true or not. And I think that presents a challenge to marketers. It is forcing marketers to innovate at greater speeds without as much information as they'd like to have about consumer mindsets. So how are you responding to those challenges?
It's a good question, and it's one that's a constant state of evolution. I mean, in these times of significant uncertainty, there is, in my opinion, a natural human instinct to stay with what's comfortable and stay with things that you're sure of. And while I agree with that to some degree, we can't lose focus on innovation and on trying new things and learning and testing. Now, I completely agree. In these times of uncertainty, it is important to place bets in areas that have low risk, things that we're certain of, and we do that, and we'll continue to do that. But ensuring that we continue to keep some portion of our efforts, of our time, of our energy, of our budgets towards areas of innovation, because we don't know what the next 3 months, 6 months, a year will look like. And if we put all of our efforts towards things that were in those areas of pure comfort, they might work in the short term, but it'll be at the expense of the long term. Yeah. And I think that's what I've been encouraging our teams to do.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, just, as being a new partner to Hulu, we worked with you guys in May, which was, right at the height of everything happening. We really appreciated you taking a chance on us as a new partner, being open to, testing. And I think it's something that all, marketers right now should be looking at, because, a safe bet is good, but we can't lose sight of innovating and moving forward either.
Agreed. Like many analogies in life, a diversified portfolio of activity is important.
Exactly. So let's talk about some recent campaigns. You can mention one or a few, but thinking about innovation now versus a year ago, talk to us a little bit about how your marketing has maybe changed in response to what's happening right now versus how you would have done it, had the same title come out a year ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. The speed of innovation has changed so much in the last 7 or 8 months, however long we've been in this situation, and it's still not at a point yet where I'm able to define what that change in speed is. It's just different, and I think there's certain things we were talking the other day. There's certain things that we were doing with our campaigns 6 months ago that at the time we thought were wildly innovative, but now as we look back on it, some of those initiatives, when I read through some emails from way back 4 or 5 months ago, some examples. Well, I think, and it's this feeling of, wow, what we thought was so innovative 4 or 5 months ago seems so basic, for lack of a better word, right now. And so doing things early on with surprise Zoom talent appearances, which Zoom backgrounds, exactly. It has that feeling of, when you kind of go through an old junk drawer and you find your cell phone from 2 years ago and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I used this phone once upon a time. yet it was only 2 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago. Well, that's happening now with the work that we did just 3, 4, 5 months ago. And I think there's certain things that we did then that made sense. And we, of course, were the beneficiary of people having a lot more time on their hands to stream content. And I think there's things that we've done in the past, in the recent past, that spoke to that, and being able to watch people's behaviors, take the creative of our shows, of our titles, and find unique ways to communicate with people. Whether it was the work that we did together around Solar Opposites and really tapping into the fabric of that show, which was really, really funny, and partnering with Fail Army and finding ways to integrate, knowing that fans were going to be watching a lot more internet videos at the time, finding what is the right brand, what is the right property, what is the right audience for us to integrate Solar Opposites within. And Fail Army made a ton of sense, and you guys did just a tremendous job in getting into the library of content that you had and integrating Solar in a way that was a significant contributor to the success that we had of that campaign. I'm glad that we did it, and we tried it, and it was the first time that we'd partnered with you guys in that way, and it made a ton of sense. We also we acquired a film at Sundance. The last time I saw you, acquired a film at Sundance called Palm Springs. At the time, we were very bullish about how good the film was, but little did we know how relevant it was going to be creatively. And without giving away too much about the film for those that may not have seen it, it's very much it's a time loop film where Andy Samberg is kind of stuck in the same day over and over again. When we acquired it, I wish I could say that we knew that 5 months later we were all going to feel like we're in a time loop every single day. But we acquired the film based on the power of the story, and then as the world evolved around it, we evolved the campaign around it, and kind of took to the nature and the behavior of everyone feeling like they're stuck in a time loop, and designed a campaign to make an attempt to draw some humor upon the situation that we were all in, and ultimately was very successful. The film went on to be the most successful film that Hulu has launched. So.
That's amazing. Speaking of platforms and things that work and things that don't, early on in the year when Corona first hit, there were a lot of articles, talking about, will this be the death of influencer marketing? I think a lot of marketers rethought their digital out-of-home strategies, considering that everybody was staying in. So how has, the last 6 months shifted your specifically your media mix? Are you leaning more into some disciplines than others? Are you seeing now, more of a resurgence back to normality? Love to hear about that.
Yeah, and some of the stuff is obvious, as you might suspect. I mean, we were questioning a lot of the out of home at a time when people were not out of home. People started to return a little bit, and it's looking like it's more advisable now that everyone stayed home for a little bit longer. So we're naturally rethinking what that means. It doesn't mean that we should be completely going away from out of home. I've seen some great out of home tactics that have had a resounding impact and generating conversations beyond just the people that visibly see it themselves. And so I think a lot of that is leaning into the behaviors that we all have. We know that people are going to be interacting in the digital way and via social platforms, as you'd expect. And so because of that, we're leaning into those. But it's not just about pushing budgets into those categories with those platforms. It's about what you do with it. Naturally, we're asking ourselves those questions and rethinking budgets depending on what it is. But it's more than just pushing more 30-second spots onto Instagram because we know people are on Instagram more. It's really thinking through what is the creative execution in how we're going to captivate these audiences and get people to want to affect their behavior and spend more time on our platform at a time when there's a lot of content out there and a lot of great content providers and very worthy competitors who are also putting out great content. What are the things that we can do to alter fans' behavior so they spend more time on our platform engaging with our shows and then subsequently using their own voices and becoming influencers in their own right to influence their friends to encourage conversation around our titles.
Absolutely. And you guys have been doing a great job of that. I think I read an article that viewership on Hulu is up tremendously. I think it was something to the tune of 9 hours, or am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, we're if you read it, then sure. We're oftentimes hesitant to share a lot of those numbers. So if you've read it there, then yes. But yeah, naturally, as you'd expect, engagement has increased over this time.
Absolutely. I'll take a quick pause just to let everybody know that we will have Q&A at the end of this, so type in your questions. But let's move on. You mentioned competitors, and the term streaming wars has been part of the lexicon for years now. But this year, the last 12 months, that has really been kicked up a notch, right? We had the launch of 5 large platforms: Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Quibi, which came and went very quickly, which is a whole separate, I'm sure, topic to talk about. But I would love to hear about what is marketing like in such a crowded ecosystem, because that really only became super crowded in the last 12 months. So how are you guys approaching and altering your strategies to compete?
It's for us, I think it's less about altering the strategy and more so about staying the course. And we're fortunate that we got, some would say a head start out of some of the other competitors that have come in. And really, everyone's at a different stage across the board. We're all at different stages in growth. And like any brand, I mean, there's some similarities to Lyft. There's different times when marketing efforts will be focused on different things, whether it is acquisition or engagement, to keep it simple. And look, we're always trying to, of course, acquire new subscribers and always trying to put out great content that keeps our current subscribers engaged. That's a given. But we're at a different lifespan, a life cycle as many of our competitors. And while of course I don't know the in-depth strategies of the folks at many of those great competitors that you'd mentioned, a lot of them are in heavy build mode. And really focused on acquisition. And I imagine their marketing efforts are adjusted accordingly. We, of course, still want to acquire more subscribers. We think there's a lot of folks out there who would be massive fans of the content that we put out. And we're going to continue to appeal to them. But we also have a balance of ensuring that we continue to maintain the engagement and fulfill the promise that we've given to all of our subscribers, that you can come to Hulu at any time of the day and find content that you'll love, be it films or series, scripted or non, our own originals or content that we license from others. And there's a constant need to ensure that our marketing communicates that. And so we balance our brand marketing with our product marketing, with our content marketing. And many of our different initiatives have a different balance of what, from a marketing standpoint, of what the purpose of those are. Sometimes when we have great audiences and we know them, we know their habits well, and we feel an obligation to continue to keep them engaged, we might have efforts that are more heavily focused on maintaining that engagement and keeping them on Hulu and keeping them entertained with whether they're watching by themselves or with family, whether they're sharing and talking about it, and others. And then also have other initiatives that are focused on subscriber acquisition. Again, we have over 30 million subscribers that we feel indebted to ensure that we maintain those levels of entertainment. And I imagine that our competitors might look at the landscape a little bit differently, because of the necessity of where their product is at the moment. Some having just launched in the last few months, and some in 2019.
I think, all of those are great points. I'm curious who you think is doing, a really good job right now of marketing, and if there are any, competitor campaigns that, you've seen in the past few months where you're like, gave them a nod, said job well done.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's doing well outside of Hulu, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'll say first and foremost, I love competition. We love competition. It's great. We're seeing great, healthy competition right now. And it makes us and our teams work harder and be more creative and more strategic. So it's not uncommon for us to look at things that another partner have done. And like you said, tip your hat. I love it. I love when others raise the bar and then we attempt to go raise right on top of it. And each of our competitors, I can rattle off examples of things that they're doing really well, which is, again, great for the industry as a whole. Look, I think Netflix has done some interesting things in the past. I even a week or two ago, somebody sent me what was it for their new first series, the Haunting of Bly Manor. They did an outdoor experiential thing where they took a fountain that I think it was in New York and I kind of rebranded the fountain and made it look like it was full of blood instead of water. Which I love that they did that because I'm a big believer in the power of experiential marketing, and not surprisingly, experiential marketing has taken a big hit over this time, which is a bummer because there's a lot of incredible experiential marketers and experiential marketing agencies out there that do incredible work, and I'll be very excited when the world is back up and running so that we can get that type of marketing going. But even that as a tactic, I loved it because it's a time when experiential marketing might be an easy thing to do, but they did a good job of it. And anyone who, of course, walked by it probably took notice of it. And many took it a step further. I live in LA, not New York. And many took it a step further and decided to make that moment a part of the fabric of their social media and extended the communication even further.
Exactly.
So I look at that and I tip my hat. I think that was a great execution, and I encourage not just our competitors but all brands, all marketers to not discount the power of experiential marketing right now just because of the situation that we're in. There are still really unique ways that experiential marketing can have a significant impact.
Absolutely. I think experiential marketing done well leads to an incredible amount of earned media. And especially, where we're heading right now, people are, it's hard to continue to stay indoors. People are venturing out. And so I think we're going to see a resurgence, and we've seen it with, drive-by events and, things that brands are doing to still create an experience around a holiday or a tentpole event. And they're using these opportunities, and they're smaller scale than they likely would have done before. But I think they're probably seeing a much greater multiplying effect out of it because the people that are attending are super fans. They're so grateful for the experience that the brand is providing them, and they're going to get a tenfold return on that.
I agree. As long as people stay safe, stay smart, the brands, the people that are putting on those experiences make sure to invest in the needs in order so that people can stay safe and stay smart, will benefit from it. And so I would encourage any brand that does engage in this, of course, and consumers to, of course, stay safe during these times. But you can still enjoy life.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts? And it's something we didn't talk about on our prep call, but this was before the news came out about Quibi Folding. But, working at a streaming giant and, having the experience that you do, I'd love to hear about, where you think things went south for them.
It's a lot of mix of emotions, to be honest. I have the chills just thinking about it right now because I know a lot of people who work there, and they've been working their tails off, and I feel for them. I really do feel for them right now. And I was rooting them on, one, because they have good people who work there who are friends of ours, and because competition is great for the industry as a whole. I think the industry hurts when things like that happen, and also as a consumer, as a lover of content, that also hurts because they were seemingly in development on some shows that might have been great. And so I hope that for the cast and the crew and the people that help produce a lot of those shows, I hope that there's a second life. I don't know anything about the business deals associated with the windowing, but I know there's a lot of good people over that who work for Quibi, or even people on the production side who are making shows for Quibi. that are in really unfortunate situations right now. I think it's too early to play Monday morning quarterback. At least in my opinion, I've read many of the articles and opinions on it. But right now, my feeling on it is just one of empathy, frankly, because again, I think that the industry is better when there's good competitors, and then on a human level, there's some very talented folks there who work their tails off to get to this point.
I agree with you. I think it was a very, very bold endeavor. I think everybody was, rooting for them to win, knowing how much went into it, the amount of money that was raised, the players involved, in the industry. We all have, I think most of us have friends that were there. So it's definitely, it's surprising at how quick, it crumbled.
And my biggest hope is that it doesn't stunt innovation. I applaud them and their efforts in trying to do something different. And obviously, it's not everything is going to be successful, but I just hope it doesn't stunt innovation.
Are you ready for some Q&A?
Sure.
All right, awesome. So the first one is, what effect do you think the Gen Z generation will have on corporations and brands as a whole as they move into leadership roles in the next 20 to 30 years?
A powerful one. Yeah, I think that that generation is being taught to communicate in ways that our generation is less so. It's less inherent to us. Mm-hmm. And I'm constantly, whether it's, I try to surround myself, frankly, as much as possible, whether it's family members or colleagues, because I think they have a very powerful voice and know how to articulate it in ways that we didn't when we were that age. They're also tremendous consumers of content, of brands, of services, and there are, I think, the quicker that we can get people of that people within that generation into decision-making roles, the better different companies will be. Because then again, I'm making massive generalizations, but I have seen some incredibly smart, creative, innovative people in the Gen Z audience that are going to do incredible things to, within the brand culture, within storytelling, within entertainment. So,
absolutely. Totally agree with you. Next question is, what brands do you look up to, and what leaders in marketing do you admire?
What brands do I look up to? Well, I'm biased with on behalf of a lot of the brands that I've worked with. I'm still, I feel very fortunate to have spent the time that I did at Lyft, and was very, I have some lifelong experiences to take from that. I think our marketing leader at a time, a lady named Melissa Waters, who's now in a senior marketing role at running marketing at Instagram. She's a wonderful leader and an incredible marketer. So those have had a chance to interact with her. I feel really fortunate that the time that I had at CAA, I worked for and mentored by a gentleman named David Messenger, who's now the global CMO of Activision. I think Activision has done a tremendous job marketing. Obviously, similar to the streaming companies, they've been a beneficiary of the fact that people have a lot more time at home on their hands, but have done incredible work during this time in creating engaging content and games. David is a tremendous marketer. I could go on. I feel very fortunate that I've been surrounded by and worked on behalf of some incredible marketers and incredible brands.
That's fantastic. I'm sure they appreciate the shout outs. So another question about how working from home and socially distancing has altered digital habits and consumer behaviors. And so what are you seeing when it comes to those types of behavioral changes? How are you guys adapting to those?
I think a lot of it, one area that comes to mind as you ask that is the different social platforms seem to be forums for different types of communication. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that brands listen to that, hear that, and maybe alter their marketing depending on what platform something's on. A spot that's created for Instagram is not necessarily going to work on Facebook or on Snap or on TikTok. There's, things that, and I think it's understanding and knowing those environments and watching and listening to what people are talking about. Without going too deep into politics, you see things that are of a political nature more prevalent on certain platforms than others. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to market on those platforms, and I still think that there is a way that you can and should do so, just acknowledge that and know that people are likely going to be swiping from a friend's or a loved one's opinion about a political view to your content, and keep that in mind as you design advertising for those platforms. Similarly, if someone's on Snapchat might be a little bit more loose or comedic in nature. If you're marketing from an entertainment standpoint, a property that is a comedy, or if you're a brand that has built up the voice to enable you to be comedic, find the right platforms to do so. Otherwise, I think you might come at risk of, at best case scenario, being ignored, or worst case scenario, coming across as tone deaf. And so I think we're relying upon, again, going back to being a student of popular culture, understanding what are the conversations that are happening in each of these forums so that you can better entertain people and better market to folks.
Absolutely. So speaking of politics, we have an election around the corner. A lot of brands, what I'm hearing and reading is, there's so much trepidation about which way it will go and what the effects of that will be. And so they're taking a pause in their marketing strategies. And that's probably not something that you have the luxury to do, because you have shows that have release dates that are going to be coming out between now and the end of the year. Are you guys making any adjustments to, potentially how the election will come out and how that will impact your marketing of these shows?
Yes, we are. And I would say for brands that, the brands that are communicating in any way, inaction is still action. Mm-hmm. And sometimes silence can speak louder than actual words. And so I think it's important to keep that in mind when designing how you as an individual, as a marketer, as a brand are articulating yourself and your values, especially at times like this where there's a very heightened sense of awareness around what's going on in the world. And the way we're approaching it as Hulu is encouraging people to vote. And I think, and we have some interesting activity coming, but we've across the board encouraging people to identify ways that they can vote, giving information, working with partners that are all about the encouragement of people using their voices, and acknowledging the hard work that the people that came before us spent in terms of ensuring that everybody has a voice and that your voice does matter, and making sure that everybody has awareness of and access to the ability to vote, is how we're approaching it. And all of the early indications of voting numbers being at levels they've never been is really exciting. And if Hulu played some small role in encouraging people to get out and use their voice, then great.
I agree with you. I think this year in particular, the message around voting has been louder and more powerful than ever, especially around voting early. I know I plan to. We have a couple of locations nearby, so I'll be hitting one of them up either today or tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So one last question for you, probably the hardest one, but can you look into the future and, tell all these brand marketers that are tuning in today a little about, what you see coming down the line?
I'd be lying if I said I knew. But I kind of go back to one of the things I touched on before, of that in levels of uncertainty, whether it's civil or political uncertainty, which really important versions of that, or even content wise, not knowing where people are going to watch and how they're going to watch. The one thing that remains true is talent, and is the power of storytelling. and the importance of working with and partnering with people that tell great stories. Because whether people are going to be watching them, and I hope they do go back to theaters when it's safe, but watching them on massive screens or small screens or anything in between, watching it 2 hours or in small doses, the thing that will remain consistent is the power of towns and the power of storytelling. And so while there's a plethora of uncertainties going on, as a brand, as a communicator, maintaining a presence within those areas and working with partners who are the world's best content creators, that's where I see the future.
Well, we couldn't agree with you more. I think brand storytelling now more than ever is so important. There's so much noise. And what always will stand out is a powerful, authentic story. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you, Val.
Thanks, Ari. John?
Guys, fantastic job. Thank you both very much for your time. I think it was a great conversation. It's going to be interesting to me to see like what happens with original content. Like, will it start pulling more and more of the real world? Like, will there be like the folks on the show like wearing the mask, taking off the mask, or like talking about this, or are we going to stick more towards like escapism, like what movies were actually built to do in the beginning, like when movies were made. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out this year. So it was great insight.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you, man. We have 2 more panels ahead. As a reminder to the audience, please continue to use the hashtag BI Livecast in any posts about today's programming. We want to hear what you guys are saying. I don't know if you guys can see me right now. I think that you can. It looks like we still have a slate up, but I'm sure we'll fix that in a sec. I'm going to be staying on. I'm happy to